So we've been working with angles. Today we're going to talk about angles that together form a straight line. So the only important fact that you need to know to do these problems is that a straight angle has a measure of 180 degrees, which is a straight line. So let's just jump right into some examples. What if I give you this picture and say solve for x? Well, we see that in this picture there's two angles. There's an 80-degree angle, and then there's another angle here called x. But together, they make a straight line, or a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So all I have to do is subtract the angle that they give me from 180, and that tells me what's left. So x is equal to 100 degrees. Simple enough. Let's look at another example, a little more complicated. Now this one has three angles. So I have an angle x, then I have a 90-degree angle, I'll use a box for that, and then I have a 20-degree angle. I know all three of these add up to 180. So there's two ways you can approach this problem. We could write x plus 90 plus 20 equals 180. And then you could combine like terms. 90 plus 20 is 110 equals 180. And then solve for x by subtracting 110 from both sides. And those cancel, and we're left with x equals 70 degrees. And if that makes sense to you, then I would use that strategy. If on the other hand you look at it and think, well wait, I've got 90 and 20, that's 110 degrees, and I know everything is 180, so if I subtract that 110 from 180, I'm left with 70, and so x equals 70. Now you'll see later, in a few more examples later on, that that strategy will take a little bit of a turn for you. Okay, so let's look at some other problems where it's not just x for an angle, but it's an algebraic expression. So here again, we want to solve for x. Now there's two angles. You know that these two angles together make a straight line, which is 180 degrees. So 6x plus 6 plus the other angle, 72, should equal 180 degrees. First thing you do is always combine like terms. So on the left side, you can combine the 6 plus 72. That adds up to 78 equals 180. And now solve for x. So the first thing you do is subtract 78 from both sides. On the left side, the 78's cancel and gives you 0. And so we're left with 6x plus 0, or just 6x. And on the right side, 180 minus 78 is 102. And then finally, to get x by itself, the opposite of 6 times x is divide by 6. So we'll divide both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, so we have 1x. You don't have to write the 1. And then 102 divided by 6, that would be 117. So x is equal to 17. Now, when I talked about that other way to do it, you could look and say, well, that one's 72. So let me subtract that from 180. That gives me 108. And then we could say 6x plus 6 has to equal that 108. And essentially, it's the same amount of work. Subtract 6 from both sides. And now we're at 6x equals 102. And then that's exactly where we were here. So whichever way makes more sense to you, I would do it that way. All right, let's look at another example. Now we have three angles, and all three together make a straight line. So I know that this one 45 plus this one 85, that's 130. So if I subtract that from 180, that leaves 50 for the last angle. So this one should be 50 degrees. So that's the equation I could write. 4x plus 2 equals 50 degrees. So notice what I did. I took the angles that did not have an x term in them. They're just numbers. I added those together. They add up to 130. I subtracted that from 180 because the straight line is 180. And that leaves me with 50. And then that 50 I know must equal the last angle. So there's my equation. So I would subtract 2 from both sides, and I'd get 4x equals 48, and then I would divide by 4 and get x equals 12. If that doesn't make quite enough sense to you, then I would recommend writing it all out. And you can say 45 plus 4x plus 2 plus 85 equals 180. That'll always work. You just add everything together and set it equal to 180. And then you combine like terms, 45 plus 2 plus 85, that's 132, equals 180. And now solve for x. You subtract 132 from 180, and you'll get 48, and divide by 4, and we get 12. Same answer as the other way. All right, let's try one more. This one, even more complicated, we have 4 angles. So we can write out our equation, 70 plus 3x plus 15 plus 20 plus 30. All those together make a straight line, which is 180 degrees. Or, to save some work, and then you can solve, Or let's just look, we have 70 plus 30, that's 100, plus 20, that's 120 for all those angles. If I subtract that from 180, that leaves me with 60. That tells me that 60 must be this angle. So I could write that equation, and I'm just going to say 3x plus 15 equals 60. You can see that's a lot simpler to solve than this first one I wrote in red, but essentially we're doing the same work. So I would subtract 15 from both sides, and on the right side 60 minus 15 would be 45, and then divide by 3, and I get 1x equals 15. And there's your solution. All right, pretty straightforward. So for the assignment, download worksheet 8 and then submit that when you have it finished.